Just like other gibbons, Siamangs are well known for their arboreal lifestyle. This is something I wanted my guests to experience up close here in Canopy Gardens, so I decided to bring the people up among the tree crowns to watch the apes where they feel the most at home. Therefore I created the TreeTop Adventure, where the Siamangs will be one of the biggest stars. And this type of build is actually inspired by real life, even though it might appear a bit extreme. If you ever played around with climbing animals in Planet Zoo, you would know that when it comes to climbing mechanics, you can't really expect it to always follow your intentions. But anyway, I decided to create multiple platforms which seems to reach out of the Siamangs enclosure, and getting this to work decently was not a very straightforward process. So before I started to build too much here, I spent a lot of time just observing and testing how the Siamangs move around, and I might have taken it a bit too far at times. As you probably know, the Siamangs can climb around in two ways in Planet Zoo. You can use basically any item tagged as climbable, and they'll move around on top of it as all the other climbing animals do in this game. Sadly, this behavior is not very believable for a Siamang, as they are very well known for their Brachiation behavior, and this way of moving around is more something you would expect from a chimpanzee. We then of course also got the specific enrichment items, which is supposed to make it up for the missing Brachiation behavior, because on these metal frames they can go bananas as you would expect a gibbon to do. But sadly these frames are not super ideal for a build like this. One thing is that they are made out of metal. That is not a very good material for apes to use for climbing, so zoos in real life often avoid it. But with the right color this is not too much of an issue for me. My biggest problem is that they got these beams for support underneath, and I need a climbing structure which would be stretched out between two big platforms without other need of support. So I had to decide, what is the most important to me? That the animals move around believable, or that my habitat ends up looking like I had planned? Since the TreeTop Adventure is a big deal in Canopy Gardens, I decided to focus on making the habitat look as good as possible. Which meant I did not use the metal frames for the main part of it. Instead I used ropes, which are often seen used for Siamangs and other gibbons in real life. I did add some of the metal frames to the platform so they could at least show off the skills here, and while I was playing around with the Siamangs I did make one interesting discovery. While the Siamangs cannot go full ape like this on anything else than the metal frames, they can actually show off one Brachiation behavior on the normal climbing structures. They can hang like this. While this does not happen very often, and I'm not entirely sure if you can somehow motivate them to do it more often, it at least helps compensate a bit for the awkward climbing when you occasionally see them hang out like this. I believe you need to make sure some of your climbing pieces are completely even horizontally for this to happen. So with all this in mind, I ended up creating this habitat. They got a small indoor area where they can be locked in if necessary. This part can also be viewed from a ground level. They also have a small raised enclosure attached to the indoor housing. This can be seen from the bridge. And then of course the climbing structure, which makes their habitat much bigger than it first appears. This consists of 4 platforms on top of fake trees, which match those the guest bridges are attached to. The platforms are then connected by rope. From the edge of the platform the Siamangs will not be able to reach anything. And in the middle of it you'll also find some mesh. This way they cannot escape down the tree. All platforms are usable by the animals, though it took a while to get them all to work. Apparently I need to have some ropes far down on the beam in the middle, otherwise they can't get onto the platform. To make sure the Siamangs would not just hang out in the main enclosure, I have put some frozen fruit on the last platform. This makes them appear very active on the whole structure. The keepers cannot reach it, so I must buy a new one from time to time. Below the pair of Siamangs you will find a pool which is home to a large male saltwater crocodile. From a ground level this will make the two habitats feel very connected, even though the animals cannot get close to each other. Another time we'll also add some animals to the landscape in the back. And with the Siamangs done, we have also created the first part of the TreeTop Adventure. Something that will be added more to along the way. Maybe even a second pair of Siamangs in a separate habitat. I wanted this video to focus on the Siamangs, so you'll have to wait a bit longer to learn how to build stuff like this for your own guests, but make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that video in the future. And if you want to know more about this zoo, then check out this video for a proper introduction. Thank you for stopping by.